Welcome to what I might just call the Fant Files. My state of college baseball, 6 weeks into the season now, 2 weeks full conference play completed across the country. My name is Harrison Cordell Fant, and I'm a college baseball analyst and insider who's been covering college baseball for 3 full seasons now. With the last two, I've been blessed enough to cap off and finish in the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska, interviewing national championship coaches and players on the field after the game. And man, I just want to share the game of college baseball and grow it and kind of give, like I said, my state of college baseball and where we are at this point of the season with, I feel like, a large, strong portion of data to really decide and talk about things in more depth than just initial thoughts, non conference, in a lot of preseason expectations and anticipations and predictions. So, what this is, and I'll give a rundown of kind of how I want to go through this and explain things, is what this is, what to expect, how often I plan to do this, and my goal this season covering college baseball. The goals there. I can easily get lost in the rabbit hole of stats and even traditional ones, let alone advanced ones. So I'll do my best to keep it more high level as possible and blend the two. But what this is in the rundown of this episode, if we can call it that, is who has impressed me the most, who's been the most unimpressive and underwhelming as well, who's been slept on the most, what the postseason formula is in college baseball, my take personally on the midweeks and midweek madness, as I like to call it. I've been calling it for a couple of years now. It's because it always delivers. In my opening weekend experience on site and travel so far, covering college baseball at some new venues, new states even too. And what that stop was at my first road stop after opening day, where that was in that experience as well. But man, I just want to kind of give a full synopsis of how we stand so far in college baseball through my eyes and my experience and just what I'm seeing in both stats, video, and in person, and share that with as many people as possible. So we'll dive into it. I've got a loose script I've organized and sorted out. So I'm going to try to follow that flow chart, that rundown to keep things moving and keep things on pace and structured. So starting like I said at the beginning, who's impressed me the most? And I will get into a top 25 power rankings. Don't worry about that. That's to come very shortly. But who's impressed me the most so far? Honestly, it's a lot of teams that I not necessarily shocked about. There's a couple in there that I'm more surprised about, but one that I will say and give a hint, it was a dark horse of mine preseason. Talk about them more. Auburn Tigers. Mississippi State is just a huge one that was so talented, but we didn't know what was gonna happen with him with Brian O'Connor, legendary UVA coach, taking a job at Mississippi State, and it just felt like a rebuild of a roster and structure of not a rebuild, but new full build of a roster. Auburn's been an unbelievably impressive team that has a lot of returning young power that's been producing at high level. Butch Thompson, phenomenal coach. I got to talk to him in person when I was out in opening weekend. Awesome human being and great coach. Southern Cal has been, I think, the darling of impressive teams to start the college baseball season. Just their streak. They're the last undefeated team. They won over 18 games in a row. Florida State, if you can count them as most impressive so far, I just think they kind of flew under the radar for a national powerhouse that they are. I think Jarrett's done a phenomenal job with that team year after year after year. I know they've been to Omaha recently and can say, is that, that impressive? But just how stacked I think the top of the ACC is, I think so. Another ACC foe, Virginia Cavaliers. Like I said, after Brian O'Connor left Virginia to take the head coaching job at Mississippi State, just what was going to be of Virginia this season with a huge amount of transfers in and out. You have new head coaching staff coming in and bringing their players, a lot of them from Duke, the head coach coming from Duke in Corey Mascara, and just what that's going to look like in just a powerhouse of UVA because they really are. Notre Dame's been extremely impressive, and I think just a team that in the ACC no one really expected to be pushing towards the top in elites of college baseball in the ACC with how deep the top of it is. It feels like Arkansas, and I think this might be a catch for some people, me saying that because it's Arkansas powerhouse, but they had to replace so much. I mean, they lost over 15 guys to the draft last year in graduation, and just you're replacing. Talk about an instant rebuild. It was an instant rebuild of plugging in elite talent players. It was like, how is this going to synergize together? And is there anyone better to do it than Dave Van Horn, the legend head coach, who will probably be a Hall of Fame head coach and hopefully win a College World Series title before he retires and gets inducted. But Arkansas has been impressive from that standpoint. So maybe a little bit different kind of tiering for that. Oklahoma, I know they had a, maybe not as impressive first season in the SEC last year, especially as much as their counterpart Texas first season in the SEC. But I just think that Skip Johnson, just an old school guy, old school coach that's gotten a ton of his players and replacing two-thirds, if not their whole pitching staff on the starting rotation side, just how great they've shown. They've played in huge tournaments to start the year, and I just really like what I've seen from Oklahoma and just the potential they have throughout the season. Um, Honorable mention, Field of Dreams shirt. Got to rep the Field of Dreams here. If you build it, it will come. Opening day, Major League Baseball right here as well. So got to respect that and represent it, as well as the Omaha lid. Hopefully, see you in the College World Series here in 2026 in later June. So excited! One of the coolest events in college sports ever, I think, and I don't think it gets close. I could do a whole other episode on that if I wanted to. Let me know if you want me to. I actually probably could be easily conveyed and tempted and persuaded to do that. But, anyways, those are the biggest ones that have impressed me the most so far this season. And as for who's been the most, I don't want to say unimpressive, but more so underwhelming this season, I got five teams as well: Clemson, LSU, Wake Forest, Florida, Arizona, for sure, Vanderbilt, and Kansas State. I think Kansas State just a little bit less so, just because I think that they had a really big opportunity to come out of the gates of the Big Ten or the Big 12, excuse me, as well as Arizona, and both be pushing towards the top and being leading that Big 12, which is a very deep Big 12 this year. I think people are sleeping on it because it's the Big 12. It's not the SEC and it's not the ACC. The Big 12 is really, really good baseball, and it's full of good baseball. Clemson, I think, just they were a way too early post Omaha College World Series team for me, and I believe a College World Series team coming into the beginning of 2026 calendar year. Just it's been really frustrating to see with how much talent they have and a phenomenal head coach like Coach Eric Backage is. I'm a huge Eric Backage advocate. I think he's an awesome head coach. He's a great head coach, great leader. Just Clemson getting out of the gates super cold and just kind of frustrating to watch. And I know they're frustrated about it, fans as well. LSU can say the same thing. Maybe some LSU fans agree, some don't. Championship hangover. I don't know, but it's LSU. It's the standard of college baseball. If they're not at the top 10 in the country, and I think any LSU fan, let alone most SEC fans, could probably agree on this for sure, that it's underwhelming and unimpressive and just not satisfactory. And just LSU so talented. I mean, Jay Johnson, one of the best, if not the best head coach in college baseball right now. He probably is the best head coach in college baseball. I stand on that. Great leader and just phenomenal recruiter. And just LSU doesn't have a rebuild; they just revamp and they just reload. Reload's the best word for that. Wake Forest, I think, just an opportunity. I know a lot of the move in the ACC with coaches and players, the transfer portal. I think that the couch could get jumping again. It should. Wake Forest is just there. It's just knocking on the door of being elite ACC team, top of the ACC, and just I think they haven't come out and get strong like they'd like to. They've got a lot of talent as well. Florida, another team full of talent, wanting to come out of the gates hot and just has struggled in a lot of midweek games season after season. We see that all the time in Florida. But just Kevin O'Sullivan, he's been to Omaha more times than he hasn't as Florida's head coach. Just think about how unbelievably hard and impressive that is, and just how much talent goes through Florida into the big leagues every single year, draft after draft. It's just for Florida, they want to feel like a rebuild, not a rebuild, but like a reload. And it's just they've really struggled so far this season. Vanderbilt, just Tim Corbin, a legend. He'll be a Hall of Fame head coach in college baseball, I believe, as well. Just Vanderbilt's just one of those teams that like they've either had extremely good pitching, was been their MO for years and years and years, or they have great hitting, or it's been kind of just they haven't never had all the pieces together since their College World Series title back before right before COVID, and it's been frustrating to see because Vanderbilt's just known as a powerhouse in college baseball. Kansas State, like I said, I think they had an opportunity to come out of the gates, be the top of the Big 12. So with that, who's slept on the most so far this season? I have a couple teams in mind and a couple honorable mentions. I think it's Ole Miss, undoubtedly, and I've put them in my power rankings at the I think they were like the 20 through 25 last week or the week before, and just inching them up, inching them up. They've had one of the toughest schedules in college baseball, and it's not even close. And I don't think people are talking about that enough. That's a big thing I don't want to say frustrates me, but just like it's been flying on the radar so much. They have the fourth strength of schedule. They're, I mean, just 14th non-conference RPI, 49th non-conference strength of schedule. RPI overall seventh. Yeah, you can say they're 3-3 in the SEC, but they have a 19-7 record. They've been playing insanely hard opponents, both at home and on the road. They've played just elite talent week after week to start the season. I mean, they've put themselves through the gauntlet. I think they really know who they are in the battle tested so far, and I think they're the most slept on team that could be a dark horse in the postseason for sure. We've seen LSU or Ole Miss obviously be a really great postseason team. They've won a College World Series within the past 10 years. Obviously, Coastal Carolina next. I think I'd say more so slept on. Yes, they're a top 25 team. I have them kind of towards the bottom third, top my power rankings, top 25. But it's because they've been missing their Friday and Saturday guy most of the season. A lot of injuries they've been battling, and just not having their best guys, not having their top their Cam Fluke is one of the best pitchers in college baseball. You can argue that with maybe a couple people. That's about it. But not having that and just producing it the way that they're producing and winning at the amount and way that they're winning, it's hard to battle that. I mean, they have the 18th best strength of schedule, 22nd non-conference RPI, seventh best non-conference strength of schedule, 14th RBI. Like it's hard to debate that, and they keep winning and doing it of with injuries to key important players, centerpieces of their team. So for that, obviously, I think they're one of the biggest slept on teams that more so is ranked. Obviously, I think Oregon State just because they're the independent out west. No one really kind of gives them the credit, even though they're kind of like a I don't want to say they're not a powerhouse. I mean, they won one college series, but just a team that you consistently see pushing for Omaha. It feels like every year. I think they're more so quiet. They have, I think, coming to the season, they have the best rotation in college baseball. And I mean, you have probably the best pitcher so far this season, one of the best, if not starters, in Dax Whitney, who's just flying up draft boards more and more every time he goes out there and pitches. He just set a program record earlier this season for most strikeouts in a game with it was well over 15. Um, it's just incredible to see how talented he is and just the development that they have. Virginia, I think a lot of for the reasons that I said has been impressed me the most because so much movement in the roster, obviously the new head coach, and just what was Virginia going to be. And I think they come to the gates. They haven't really missed a beat, it feels like. So I think that's not easy to do, especially in the ACC and just the perennial name brand that Virginia is. So that's really impressed me. Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, just down the road, like an hour and a half from Omaha. Could they make a deep run? I think they've been incredibly impressive to start the season so far. I mean, they're a team that I didn't see, making noise at all out of the Big Ten, and they come in 28th RPI. They've been taking care of business at extremely high level, 19-6 record. They've got a 20 non-conference RPI. Obviously, the non-conference strength schedule is 91, strength schedule is 96. Not the best, but like for where they are, they're 5-1 in the Big Ten. I think they might just stay at the top of the Big Ten the entire year and definitely push for. Hopefully, I know they want to push for hosting a regional just down the road from College World Series. That would draw a huge crowd. I think Jacksonville State mid major is my honorable mention. They've been out to an incredibly hot start. I think that when you have a team like Jacksonville State, who is a mid major team, they're 6-0 in Conference USA, which is very competitive. I think more so than people think. I don't think it's the best mid major conference. I think that's the Fun Belt. Shout out Fun Belt. It's the Sun Belt actually, but call it the Fun Belt because it has some of the best baseball in college baseball. Jacksonville State, 41 RPI. They're incredibly talented. They're incredibly good. I think they're really slept on. They're 21-5. I have them just outside top 25 my power rankings, and I think that they're going to be a dangerous postseason team. The problem is they haven't played and won a lot of Q1 games. That's quad one. They're 1-4. That worries me a little bit more so. They haven't played any quad two games, so it's like, who are they against bigger teams? So honorable mention there. Pittsburgh baseball. I think that they've been really impressive to start the season and how they've gone about their business. And they're 17-6. I don't think of Pittsburgh baseball, I think of ACC, right? They haven't played anyone big that they've won a series versus so far. I mean, they took one from Georgia Tech, number three team in the nation, top five team. Just a huge boost there. They would go out to California, play Stanford, take a series there. Two games, not easy to do. I don't think it matters how good or bad Stanford is. They're 500 right now, but the rest of their schedule isn't too great. But I think just out of the gates, more so impressive than I anticipated. Big win at Kent State. He was a very good team at 18-5 in the midweek recently. So Pittsburgh could be, I'm gonna say an honorable mention, but more so an early slept on team so far. Now, postseason formula. This is the postseason formula, and there's no if, buts, debates about it. And I've talked to a lot of college baseball coaches in the ACC, SEC, former players, agents combined, they have all agreed on this. Win the series at home, so you take two of three, and don't get swept on the road. Win one game on the road. It's as straightforward as that. It's not easy, but it's straightforward. And like I said, they're talking with these respective individuals that have lived this and breathed this. They agree. I mean, every win matters. Yeah, especially the mid week games matter more so for the mid major teams. And I'll get into that than the bigger teams. But you'll take a win however you can. Obviously, the cleaner the better, and the more confident the better. But winning on the road is hard. People don't understand it, especially in the SEC, especially in the ACC. I mean, it's hard to win on the road, and I think people take that for granted. I mean, like I said, going out to Cal winning a series again, going to California winning a series against Stanford, not easy. And I think Stanford's just in a rebuild couple of years, but doesn't make it the wins worse. I mean, I just think winning on the road is hard, especially when you're traveling across the country for a weekend series. These kids are still in school. As for the midweek upsets, I love them. I'm all here for them. I mean, I love good baseball. I love mid major. I'm a big mid major guy. Um, it's just a lot of guys that didn't get recruited to go to those big schools or weren't going to play there, and so they went mid major, especially the transport now. Going mid major, then going D1, Power Five, Power Four after now is a huge route. But I love seeing mid majors, go in and take a big win. And yes, whether they use their ace or not, I think you go in there, you got to win the game. And I know LSU's been victim of a lot of midweek upsets. Florida, as I mentioned as well, and it is what it is. It's a great opportunity for these Power Four programs to test a lot of guys, get guys opportunities that they don't want to. I don't want to say risk on the weekend, but just don't know if they're ready for the weekend or if there's a situation on the weekend. This is like it's more of an experiment, but it's a game that you still want to win. And I know every single coach, Power Four, Division 1, D2, D3, JUCO wants to win every single game, especially midweeks. But it's an opportunity to give your guys that aren't starting on the weekend or your go-to guys in the bullpen opportunities to say, hey, can I throw this guy in a spot start if I need to in the weekend or in this situation or, come in and be a relief guy if someone gets hurt, or whatever it is, or can he close? Especially young guys. It gets them reps and experience in big situations on the field during the season. And I think that's super important. So it's important for all those things I just listed. Midweek upsets it's midweek madness, as I call it, for a reason. It's bound to happen. It's going to happen. It's just what happens. It's great for mid majors to build up their RPI. That's part of it. It's a huge thing. So that's my take on the midweek series and midweek upsets. I love when the entry tournaments, transitioning into opening weekend. For me, my experience on site is you have these round robin tournaments when you have big name teams and brands going and playing neutral sites, especially MLB ballparks or minor league ballparks, and playing dudes and studs and just postseason caliber teams straight out the gates instead of just playing, these mid majors from the Northeast. No disrespect for them, but when you're gonna go to, you know, you're gonna go to Globe Life Field, where I was opening weekend in Arlington, Texas, first ever opening weekend tournament for me, especially first ever tournament for me. Super cool experience. I was in Tennessee for the defending national champions of 2024 for their 2025 opening weekend last season. So get to do this was super, super cool. And it worked out super well with my life schedule and everything else going around that work. And awesome experience. First time at Global Life Field. Um, Shout out to a friend for everything, all the coordination and logistics with that and the opportunity to do that and cover that from media standpoint. Got to speak to a lot of coaches, a couple of players, just super cool experience and just great to see great baseball out of the gates. And the fans showed up, they showed out. College baseball is growing immensely. And it's so cool to see and be a part of and just hear the fans and the players and what that means to them and see it grow before their eyes. And just unbelievable experience. Love that. Got to see a ton, like I said, of great baseball, SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12 teams that are I've talked about a lot so far and that are all in the top 25 or pushing to be in the top 25. That are a lot of them, if not the majority, are going to be postseason teams and going to be deadly postseason teams. After that, my first road tour stop, just the following weekend after Globe Life Field and opening weekend, was the Texas Longhorns in Austin, Texas. First time in Texas, I double dipped with college baseball. Unbelievable experience, unbelievable hospitality within both. And that was such a privilege, such a blessing that I was so grateful for and so grateful for still. Dish Falk Stadium, first time there, got to meet Chris Del Conte at Texas there, talked to him briefly. Super cool experience. Big fan of him and what he's done for the University of Texas as a whole, let alone baseball. And Dish Falkville was super cool. It was, I'm gonna say this with respect, much more of a wine and cheese kind of crowd and fan base. I know it's early in the year. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt with that, but just I was hoping for more into the game, more fans there. It was great weather. I loved it. It was great. Wore my cowboy boots even too. Brought them out, put them in the suitcase. 49 pounds out of 50 on the scale. Made sure I got them in there, but just a little more laid back than I was expecting, except for left field. Shout out my boys at Occupy Left Field. Nash, I mean, everyone there was just so hospitable, so much fun, great energy, meeting so many, all those people finally, and their friends and their tailgate buddies, and just super cool experience. And I really appreciate them for that. I can't even imagine what that's like and going to be continuing like as the season goes on in SEC play. Because man, especially with Texas being a top three team, top two team, number one team, depending on who you ask and what rankings, man, I can't. I got to get back. I got to get there. Texas, super cool experience. Super cool to talk to a couple of players, talk to a couple of coaches there. Appreciate them for all of what they do for the game, as well as just the conversations I have with them. It's funny enough, flew back right after the Sunday game with Michigan State's team who connected through Atlanta. Oregon State was also coming from Round Rock in the airport, so that was pretty funny. It was a cool situation, but anyway, so with these tournaments, like I said, for opening week, in my opinion, I love them. I think they're huge, huge, huge for college baseball and great. And I think you get battle tested out of the gates. You can find out, and like Eric Backett just said it too. Link Jarrett, Dan McDonald, Butch Thompson, David Hunter have all said the same thing to me. They told me, we know exactly, you're going to find out exactly who you are and where you're good at, where you struggle with immediately. And that's the benefit of these. And just, it's great for the players, great for the fans, experience of both of them. So that's super cool. I'm all for them. And it's great for growing college baseball. We love that. That's what we're all about, growing college baseball. Next miscellaneous thing on the agenda, World Baseball Classic. Unbelievable. I know it's professional baseball and not college baseball, but we had three college baseball players in WBC. We had, and I don't want to butcher his name, so I hopefully get this right in the first try. Matuis Bednik, UNC Wilmington player who played for Czech Republic. You have Justin Morales who played from Bethune Cookman, who played for the Netherlands, and Tomas Lopez from Colombia, who played for Brazil. Unbelievable experience that must have been to be the only three college baseball players to play in the World Baseball Classic, and it's three mid majors. I love that. Love that. Can't ask for any more than that. So that was super cool to see. Um, Shout out to them for that experience, a once in a lifetime experience. That, I mean, to play on that big of a stage, that big to play for your country, of origin and heritage, that name across the chest, and how important that is. Super cool experience. We'll have that for a lifetime. There's two guys that I play travel ball with growing up that are actually playing the WBC as well. Super cool to watch them play and just hear a little bit about that, and watch that. It was unbelievable cool to see. Um, the other situation, the Blaine Brown, the Rice NIL situation. Now he's at Tennessee. Worth noting and mentioning. Phenomenal baseball player. I just think the whole thing is what's wrong with NIL and just how everything surrounds him. And keep this brief, but like it's just like right. It's a sticky situation, and I don't think he's going to be able to get out of it because right, or it's just a bad deal, bad negotiation. I'm going to leave it at that. It just kind of hurts him on the back end. But I think he's just really focused on playing baseball right now and playing his best brand of baseball and helping Tennessee win as many games. I'm going to leave it at that. But sticky situation, with the Rice owning control of his NIL and everything. So wonder how that's going to, sort out fully and how that's going to ripple effect throughout college baseball and college sports in general. Just kind of like how the Diego Pavia situation ripple effect. But just wanted to touch on that as well. So as for, power rankings I talked about, my power rankings, and I say power rankings on purpose, not just because they're rankings. I don't base them off of any preseason bias as much as I possibly can, or anyone else's rankings anywhere else online that covers college baseball, from various outlets and media that are very respectable outlets and media and do a phenomenal job at what they do covering college baseball and growing the game. So just how I want to approach it, it's based solely on field play, the eye test and data as much as I possibly can. And so these first 6 weeks of the season, no preseason bias as much as possible, just rankings. And I want to do that as well as how I feel about my preseason Omaha 8 picks. So post college World Series Finals 2025, the week after, I did a way too early Omaha 8. I had UCLA, Texas, Georgia Tech, Florida, Tennessee, LSU, Mississippi State, and North Carolina. Those are my eight. I feel really strong about five of those: UCLA, Texas, Georgia Tech, Mississippi State, and North Carolina. I'm loving where I'm at with those right now. I, I wouldn't go back and really change anything at this point. Mississippi State was kind of my dark horse, which is I didn't know how things were going to work out, but just knowing the brand of Mississippi State and how Brian O'Connor as a head coach and leader and the talent they had there, I was like, they got to figure it out. I just, you got to believe that they're going to figure that out maybe in year one or two. My first four out were TCU, Auburn, Arkansas State, and Oregon State. Loving that still. I know that's adding four more teams to say that we're close, but like I think it's important. You know how March Madness right now they do it's a field of 64, but it's really kind of 68 to play in, and it's like the first four out. College football playoff they do the first two out. Like I think it's important or noteworthy. So TCU, Auburn, Arkansas, and Oregon State feel really good about three of those. I don't know what to make of TCU. I don't think many people covering baseball know to really make a TCU yet, but love the Auburn pick there. Arkansas, obviously Oregon State, just it feels like a lot of times of a regional Corvallis and a super that they're in. So opening day, my Omaha 8 that I posted were UCLA, LSU, Georgia Tech, Texas, Mississippi State, Clemson, Louisville, and Oregon State. Don't feel kind of all right about that. UCLA, Georgia Tech, Texas, Mississippi State, and Oregon State, 4.5, maybe 5 with Oregon State. Clemson obviously not looking really good at all right now. Louisville, give me a long shot. My first four out were North Carolina, TCU, Florida State, and Tennessee. Like that a little bit better. Feel comfortable about that. So it's so hard to do. It's like who's going to win the College World Series? Who's going to win the World Series? Who's going to win? This is it's I'm not gonna say impossible. It's just so hard, and there's so much parity in games to play in baseball, and so that's part of it. So with that, my three Omaha sleepers coming in were Alabama, Auburn, and Southern Miss, all in that Bible Belt, deep Bible Belt right there. Honestly, love that still. I really love my sleepers. I feel like that's where my niche is of finding value for futures in this, if you want to call it that. Dark horses at this moment, yeah, there's gonna be one or two. I mean, it depends on what you value as a dark horse or a long shot, but it's honestly that for me, it's the hardest thing to pick more so than a sleeper and decide because there's so much, like I said, parity. So much can happen throughout the season, the rest of the season. And we're not even halfway through it. Injuries, who's hot in late May. That's one of the most important things in college baseball. Who's healthy and hot in late May. So there will be one or two come that time. It's not sure who they are just yet. Because I still love my preseason Omaha picks overall, my sleepers. So stay tuned with that a little bit later in the season. I'll kind of maybe do another video or talk about that some more, get some more content out about that. But honestly, and as a reminder, in my honest opinion, that covering college base right now for multiple seasons, the rankings do not really truly matter at all until after 2 weeks of conference play. This is why I decided to do this first full, long form content now, because I truly believe in order to have actual, conference play is so important, especially SEC, where it's a gauntlet and it runs college baseball. And ACC as well, just up there pushing to try to compete with the SEC every single year, and they do a great job of it. Play and data and hopefully less preseason biases. However, the top 15 preseason in polls we see is obviously a really great and strong indicator of who's going to be really good talent wise overall, and that should be competing for hosting postseason. Rachel, I'll leave it at that. A lot of people do a really great job covering college baseball, extensive amount in the offseason, and all that research goes into that and proving that. But all that matters is preseason bias doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you were ranked first, it matters what you were ranked at the end of the season. So, and going into the postseason. Now, as for my rankings, I know obviously a little long winded. Here's what I believe to be extremely accurate representation in my eyes of what the top 25 power rankings, keyword power rankings, should be. And I've power ranked also the SEC and ACC that I'll both go through, hopefully a little faster than and not dive too much into each of them. But after 2 weeks of conference play through and the data and the eye test, here's where I have the power rankings of my top 25 in order: UCLA, Texas, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Florida State, Arkansas, Georgia, rounding out top 10, Virginia, UNC, Southern Cal, Southern Miss, Oregon State, and Coastal Carolina in the 11 through 15, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Oregon, West Virginia, and Texas A&M, rounding out the 16 through 20s. Tennessee, Alabama, Notre Dame, Arizona State, and Florida, rounding out the 21 through 25. Just outside, I have NC State, Nebraska, Clemson, Jacksonville State, Louisville, Wake Forest, UCF, and USF. Now, easy to dive into, and I can do a separate video and breakdown on kind of why and how I've done my power rankings in the top 25. Like I said, it's a lot of eye tests, a lot of stats. I rely a lot on stats, but I think you have to support that with the eye test and what you see playing on the field. You can't just rely on stats entirely. That's where that old school kind of gut feeling and just all right, like you know, infield hits, things like that, just how things happen, errors, those things affect what I think can manipulate some data as well. But I just think blending the two is the perfect synergy, the perfect, contrast of both, right? The Venn diagram of both. So that's really important to me and how I go about power ranking, not just ranking, but power ranking them. Now, as for SEC power rankings, 2 weeks in through of SEC play after 6 weeks total, Texas leading the way, obviously, Auburn, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Tennessee rounding out the top 10, Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt, LSU, Missouri, and at 16, South Carolina. Now, a few noteworthy things on each of them. I think you can dive into the stats of who's good at what, who struggles at what, but when it comes down to it, good teams or have elite pitchers, starting the starting rotation, elite go-to guys in the bullpen, and produce runs at the plate and or clutch when they need it most. And I want to dive into a little bit. I want to try to do a couple teams that hit on kind of why. Texas, I just think they're the most well-rounded team in the SEC, top and bottom. They played an extremely tough schedule so far compared to a lot of other teams. They have a really strong offense that's had times of disappearance, it feels like. But when they have, the 11th ranked, you know, offense, I think overall, if you can sort a lot of stats out and combine them and where they fall, they have a top 15 OBP, a top 15 slugging, which I think is super important. I'm more of an OPS guy, so I think it's important. But in college baseball, it's super hard to get those stats and get OPS compared to Major League Baseball. I think they have a phenomenal rotation. They have the second best pitching staff in the country, and some guys are struggle here and there a little bit. But like when you have the rotation they have of Rugrioas on a Friday night, who great dude by the way too, and the role he stepped into and just owned from the jump and just took it over, as well as Dylan Vlantis on the back end with Luke Harrison in the middle. Just it's they're gonna go out there and you're gonna be hard to find try to win a game against Texas. That's how good they are. They have the second best ERA in the country at 2.92. So super super talented team top to bottom, and obviously that staff is led by Max Wiener. I think one of if not the best pitching coaches in college baseball. Um, Auburn going to number two. Just that sophomore class from last year. That's really been the core unit of what they are and who they are and their identity, and just the talent they've had around the pieces. They've all that synergy, that chemistry, that culture at Auburn of this team has been producing at the jump. It's been super impressive to see. The fans at Auburn have been showing out. The Auburn Texas series was incredible to watch. Every single as you see, just like I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just so pumped. I don't know what's going to happen next. And just atmosphere, they've expanded it. Plainsman Park, super cool experience. I've been there before. I've played on that field before. Awesome ballpark. Love that. Mississippi State, I talked about them a bit. Oklahoma talked about them a bit. Arkansas talked about them a bit. Georgia just continues to be the team that just, for some reason, just always slugs, always has a home run hitter and just leading the nation in home runs. And you have guys like, Trey Phelps and Dan Jackson who are doing that at the top of the leaderboards for home runs in the country, top, 10. And so the thing that worries me, not really worries me, but it concerns me is like, how do they not have a better pitching staff year after year after year with Wes Johnson, who's a phenomenal pitching coach? It's just like that's been their kryptonite, their Achilles here. And it's I've said it before last season, and I'll say it again this season. Like Georgia will go as far as the pitching staff takes them. It's as simple as that. It could be the College World Series. It could be your getting bumped out of a regional that they should probably be hosting. Ole Miss, super talented team. Talk about them a bit. Kentucky scrappy Kentucky team. Just kind of their mo. Nick Mingione, just how just gritty dudes. Texas A&M trying to bounce back after the season they had last year, just the historically bad season. Leave it at that. Tennessee, Tony Vitello leaves to go take the managerial job at the San Francisco Giants. Josh Allen taking over. Not much has changed. Talking to him as well, and just their MO direction, just how they go about their business. Doesn't make it any easier though. And just Florida, the struggles they've had. Talk about them. Alabama just coming off a huge sweep at Florida, super impressive. Just kind of a where's Alabama going to be? Middle of the pack, or are they going to push kind of to be the top five of the SEC? It's not easy, but I think they have a lot of talent to be able to do so, and they have one of the best talented class coming into the season. LSU's been just a struggle. Just they've been super talented team, but just hasn't produced at the level they need to be or should be or everything. It's frustrating. But if there's anything that can turn around, it's definitely LSU. Missouri, maybe the most improved team in the SEC bottom half, just how great they've been. I mean, obviously the strength of schedule's not been there yet, but they just took one from at Tennessee on Friday night. So super cool. Kerry Jackson's done a phenomenal job there at one of the hardest jobs in the country, I think. So moving on to buying and selling stocks in the SEC. I'll get to the ACC next. Don't worry. And this is, my buys and sells, my stock adjustments. Preseason buys were Auburn, like I said, Alabama. Auburn was a 5 out of 5 buy. Alabama was a 4. Ole Miss was a 2 buy. That was my, and I love those preseason buys. I'm keeping those stocks a little bit longer. I'm going to keep riding that. My sells were Tennessee with a lot of changes in the rotation, just the team and Tony Vitello leaving. It was a 3. Kentucky was a 3. Kentucky's just a tough one to just grade preseason. I think in Georgia, I didn't love the pitching staff coming this season. Knew they're going to mash. They're mashing more than I thought at the plate in the dish. Just I thought they were just a little preseason high. Obviously, they're proving me wrong in that category a little bit, just with how great the offensive is. Going on the road to College Station, winning this huge series there with the bats, and shutting it out with the arms in some situations, except for Sunday. Current buys at this point after 6 weeks. Ole Miss, my buys more Ole Miss. It's a 3 out of 5, and Texas A&M. Even though they just lost the series at home to Georgia, I'm gonna buy 2 out of 5 there. I think they're really talented. I really do, and I think Michael Irv's got this ship going in the right direction now. We have a lot of talent, and I'm not going to take too much away from them because winning an SEC series is hard. And Georgia's a really good team overall. And you just got outslugged, honestly. Got outslugged. Sells, still selling a little bit more LSU stock, 2 out of 5, and Vanderbilt stock, 2 out of 5. Just like I said, if anyone can flip it around, it's these two teams with the types of programs they are, the leadership they have with Tim Corbin and Jay Johnson. And it just seeing the bottom, at third of the SEC is just tough to see. So that's really frustrating now. Moving to the ACC power rankings after week 6, Georgia Tech at the top still, Florida State, Virginia, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Louisville, Wake Forest, Pitt, NC State, Clemson rounding out the top 10, Miami, Duke, Virginia Tech, Boston College, Stanford, and Cal rounding out the 16th spot. Now, diving too much into things here, Georgia Tech is by far the best offense in the country. I don't think it's close. They have the best slugging, I think, best slugging, best OPS in the country of any team since the BB Core era started in the early 2010s. I think it was 2011 to be exact. So I think that's super impressive, and a team that is going to be deadly all season long. It's not going to slow down. People are like, is this going to slow down against the ACC play? No, it's not. I mean, their OBP, they're batting almost 400 as a team. They're leading the country in batting average, leading the country in OBP, slugging, just hits. I mean, just they total bases. They're top 5, I think top 2. I mean, they've already got 50 home runs. Georgia, yes, has 82 home runs, but 50 home runs is insane. And they produce not just slugging home runs. They do it with or RBIs. I think they or what? Let me check. They let's see. Of course, they have the most RBIs in the country by 15. Behind them is Miami and then Georgia. They have 268 RBIs. It's unbelievable how talented Georgia Tech offense is. The pitching staffs, I think, obviously, I'm going to say the same thing as Georgia. The pitching staff will take Georgia Tech as far as their season goes. So with that, that's going to be where I continue to watch them because it's much as fun as to watch good hitting as a pitcher myself. It's like if that's where your team's going to be determined by, that's where I'm going to focus on, especially when I'm in the booth calling games for Georgia Tech this season. Hopefully continued from last season. Just love this opportunity to be able to call games for Georgia Tech. Just especially a team as town as Georgia Tech. My hometown team growing up watching. My dad went going to Georgia Tech baseball camps. Had my picture when I first game I did of Georgia Tech last year. Danny Hall, head coach, obviously retiring after last season. The broadcast, I sent them a picture. I didn't think they'd actually do it, but they asked for it, and they put the picture of me and Danny Hall at Georgia Tech, Danny Hall baseball camp 2006 there on the screen, and it was so funny. He's obviously Danny Hall signed a picture from camp. It was super cool experience, just full circle moment for me. Back into the power rankings, Florida State. I've talked about them a bunch. Super talented team, especially replacing a guy like Jamie Arnold. Virginia, I've talked about them a bunch. North Carolina, I think I've still struggled a little bit more than I thought they would at the gates. I think they haven't been as dominant as I was expecting them to coming into the season. Even though they have an elite pitching staff, I just felt like they would be a little bit more dominant and just handle things a little bit sharper and more confident than they are. And that's not saying they aren't. It's just where I thought they'd be a little bit higher, more advanced than that. So that I mean they're a top 7 pitching staff in the country, and it's going to be, where their offense takes them as well to try to simplify things as much as possible. I mean, they're batting 286 as a team with a 418 on base percentage. I mean, it's going to be the pitching staff has always been more so the MO for North Carolina than the hitting. I mean, they're 26th best hitting team in the country. Obviously, very good, but I think that it could be better. Notre Dame, just a sleeper darling of the ACC, I think, this year, coming out of the gates and just surprising people more so, especially after, when Link Jarrett was there and they go to host a super regional, they go to Omaha after beating Tennessee in the super regional. The Tennessee team was unbelievably talented. I didn't feel like anyone was beating them that year, but Notre Dame pulled it off, kind of trying to get back to that level, right? And so it's super cool to see Notre Dame do their thing and really pushing towards the top of the ACC. Louisville team has been really battle tested. I've talked about them, talking with Dan McDonald in person, opening weekend in Arlington. I think they're really battle tested. And they have a really great synergy of guys, young, like kind of middle aged guys. I think they're going to figure it out. I really do. Wake Forest, I think they have a great opportunity to figure it out as well. Pitt's been a surprising team, like I said, more of a sleeper. And I think that they're just kind of like Pitt is my ACC comparison for Kentucky. And so I think that's a great kind of just gritty comparison and just how they go at baseball and how they play. I think that they're going to be a team that is just tough to play and is going to try to take a series from a lot of top 5 ACC clubs this year and just maybe figure it out and find their way in the postseason, mess around and find out. So I think Pitt could be that club. NC State, I've been down on them a little bit from the jump this season. They don't have a great, resume, honestly. When you look at it, I mean, pulling up their resume, let's see. I just really haven't been impressed with. I mean, I think it's interesting that they're still ranked in a lot of the polls that cover college baseball at a very high level. I mean, their RPI, their records 18-7, so strong record. Their RPI is 89. Their strength of schedule 153rd strength of schedule. Non-conference RPI 155th. Non-conference strength of schedule 274th. They're 2-2 in quad one, 3-1 in quad two, 1-1 in quad three. And the most important one, they're 12-3 in quad four. I just haven't been impressed. They've had some really bad losses this season that's frustrated me as well as them with, where I think they're ranked from other people and just why I'm kind of down on them. I mean, yeah, you take one on Friday night from Florida State on the road, super impressive tight ball game. You get blown out in the next two. You lose. They just lost a game to Campbell, who's a really good Campbell. If anyone knows mid-major ball back in the day, past 10 years, they know Campbell, old school Campbell elite. But you lose a game to Princeton early in the season. That's 7 games below 500. You lose a game to Elon. You get shut out by Elon. You lose a game to Lafayette, who didn't have a win at that point in the season yet. It was their first win of the season. It was like 10 games in. You lose one to Boston College, who's obviously a team that's been really good, honestly surprising. You can put them as a sleeper in the ACC as well, 18-8. But just like NC State's going into play at Georgia Tech this week, Notre Dame next week, Duke, then Wake Forest. I don't think they have an easy ACC schedule until kind of third, later third out of fifth, maybe if you can call it that. So just something for me that how I viewed NC State differently than a lot of other people. Clemson, I've talked about them, just underwhelming they've been and how talented they are, especially. Miami's been like I said, one of the best offenses in the country as well. Surprisingly, just haven't put all the pieces together consistently. I think they could sneak up the ACC for sure. Duke, similar vibe. Just talk about them a bit earlier. Virginia Tech, Boston College. Boston College is a rising team. I just haven't played anyone really, to be honest with you, other than this NC State club, who I'm not as high as others, like I said, on Stanford, 15th, and then Cal. I just think it's really tough to compete, and someone's got to be at the bottom of the ACC. Someone's got to be at the bottom of every single conference. But buying and selling stocks, ACC, my buys and sells, team stock adjustments, right? Preseason buys were Louisville 3 out of 5, Clemson was a 2 because I had them pretty high, and a lot of people did too. Florida State was a 2. Fine with that. I'm fine with those preseason buys are now. Stocks, up and down throughout the year. I like those preseason buys. My preseason sells were Duke as a 4 out of 5, NC State 3, Stanford's a 2. I'm honestly all in and love those preseason sells personally. I think they've been great picks. I think the sells and like I said, sells and sleepers have been my strengths more so. And I've talked about those reasons why with those clubs respectively. Um, Things can change obviously though in the stock market, obviously in college baseball in a hurry. Current buys, Notre Dame 3 out of 5. I just think I love how Notre Dame has been playing in this. They've kind of been sleep. I don't want to say sleeping, but like flying under the radar in regards to the ACC because of the Georgia Techs, the Clemson struggles this year, NC State's, the North Carolinas, the Florida States, especially Virginia. It's been really cool to see Notre Dame. Like I said, they're 6-3 in ACC play, 15-6 overall. They have a 57th strength of schedule. Their was it 55th non-conference RPI, non-conference strength of schedule at 203. They're 1-3 in quad one, but 5-1 in quad two. They've got a really good balance of games, not just all quad four loaded like NC State. They're 18th RPI in the country. I think it's something to take note of and keep it on. They're 7-3 in their last 10 game home win streak. They've had, yes, they just lost the series at Louisville. Winning on the road's tough. Louisville's a really tough program, really great team in the ACC that's been battle tested, like I said. You go win series at Duke. You lose a close one at LSU. Honestly, it probably got away from you. You went against an extras against Illinois or Indiana, excuse me, and you lose a tight one against a really good UCF club. And I think they played a lot of really good mid-major teams, and so far a really good ACC schedule. They just swept Clemson, swept them. I mean, they shut them out in game one. I mean, I've been really impressed with them so far and how they've gone about their business. Um, So love that current buy. Sells Clemson a little more 3 out of 5, NC State, just for those obviously reasons that as previously mentioned. Noteworthy teams outside of the ACC and SEC for me, it can't go without saying I'm going to start in a different order. I'm going to go Southern Cal just because of the season they had coming out of, I don't want to say nowhere, but coming out of where they are, just unbelievable start to the season and everything around that to they went 18-0 to start the season, I believe, before their first loss, and just one of the best pitching staffs in the country. I mean, when you look at the stats of them, because it's like Southern Cal is historically one of the best teams historically in college baseball. I think they have the most championships in college baseball history. People don't know about it because it hasn't been they haven't been at this pinnacle of college baseball level, College World Series in a quite a long time. So it's definitely interesting to see. And if I can pull it up, let's see. No, I want to pull up their pitching staff. Yeah, they have the number one pitching staff in the country. 2.2 ERA, 230 innings. They've only given up 57 earned runs in 230 innings. And it goes to show, I mean, a lot of that talk's been all about their pitching staff and how maybe it's one of the best pitching staffs in the country. And you could easily say it is because they have the number one pitching staff statistically in the country. So I think that they're going to be a team. They have 12 national championships. They're trying to push for their 13th. And they've got a really talented club to be able to do that with. And when you have guys I just think that they're going to go as far as the offense goes to keep it as simplistic as possible. But their pitching staff is so good. Mason Edwards, he's got a .25 ERA in 36 innings. He's given up one earned run in 36 innings, 64 strikeouts, 14 walks. Grant Govil, a .69 ERA in 39 innings, 41-4 strikeout to walk ratio. And you got Andrew Johnson, who's got a 2.27 Okay, like that's still great ERA, 31 innings and a 38-11 strike to walk ratio. I mean, as a starting staff, they've given up 12 earned runs in over 100 innings almost in the weekend rotation. That's unbelievably good. And then their bullpen behind them is just nails. Diego Valenquez, 0 ERA in 7 innings that he's thrown out of the pen. I mean, they've got dudes and so many options at the pen too, which is really important. I mean, you got Gavin, Adam, you got Ben, and you got just guys that are throwing a lot of quality innings for them. 13. I mean, you have your go-to guys, but I think they just have a really deep bullpen that's going to allow them to compete this entire season and be a really dangerous posting team. It's going to take as much as the hitting goes for them as well. UCLA can't go without mentioning them. They were my preseason number one right after Omaha coming into the season, beginning of 2026 calendar year. And they still are because they returned 8 of their 9 starters from the College World Series team, and including Rock Chalowski, who might be number one off the board in the MLB draft. They're just so talented. Their pitching staff's elite. They've done a phenomenal job. Talking to their coach preseason about their opening week, their opening not opening week, but I guess weekend three of college baseball tournaments that they played in Arlington. Didn't get to see them in person there, but talking to them and just hearing about the core and just they really manage themselves. He said they're super talented guys. They really manage themselves. They know where they need to improve. And they continue just so dedicated to doing that. Not that other clubs aren't, but just that was what impressed him the most. Other noteworthy teams, Southern Miss, just one of the consistently great mid majors in college baseball, and just love watching them play. I've been to Pete Taylor Stadium. It's an unbelievable experience. Those fans love college baseball, love the Golden Eagles. Always a force to be reckoned with in college baseball. Coastal Carolina as well. Talk about them. Oregon State, talk about them. West Virginia. West Virginia has been an exciting club to watch this year, and just seeing how successful they've been, and just why. Because I think the Big 12, I don't want to say gets a bad rep, but just gets so much more overlooked in college baseball because of the SEC specifically, but also they just come in as the third conference in college baseball because they're behind. It's not even debate. They're behind the ACC in college baseball. They're definitely behind the SEC, but they've got they have 3 guys with over 1,000 OPS. 2 of them with over 1,100 OPS, and Gavin Kelly and Paul Schoenfeld just leading the way. I mean, and it's not even by home runs. They're not a home run slugging team. They don't have anyone with more than 3 home runs. Gavin Kelly's got 3 home runs. That's it. They just get on base and they get guys over and they get them in. Old school baseball. A lot of doubles, but more so just old school baseball. And a team that can do that, they don't have to beat you long ball, I think is really deadly and dangerous. And then their starting pitching staff's been all right. I mean, Max Yell has been absolute nails, almost 32 innings, 3 earned runs, a 0.84 ERA. After him, Chase and Cole and Ian Korn, both with a 4 and a 4.29 ERA, just kind of been struggling there. But like, it's exciting to see West Virginia baseball be good, as a lot of teams. But it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out for them in the Big 12 and how the rest of the Big 12 plays out, especially with Arizona, noteworthy team outside. Talk about them a bit and just the struggles they've had, and just no one really saw that coming. So, like I said, a lot of college baseball left. Anything can happen. It's anyone's game. You could have LSU come out of the bottom of the SEC right now and come back and go back to College World Series and win it. Wouldn't surprise me. Definitely wouldn't surprise the LSU fans. Would be the route that they'd want to take coming from the bottom. But I mean, college baseball, the thing we love about it is how connected we feel to the game, the amateurism of it, the history, the traditions, the fans, the tailgating, the college baseball stadiums, environments, everything about it, and just the history, the pedigree, but also the parody of how it's yeah, there's a lot of national powers programs and everything, but like a team can get good in one year, especially the transfer portal now, and turn things around and change the trajectory of their program. But to do that, you got to be able to compete year after year. NIL and obviously the portal with the big dogs, the national powerhouses, and the national power programs of college baseball. But that's the beauty of college baseball. I mean, how can you not be romantic about baseball, especially college baseball, as a former college baseball player myself? So with that, there's so much that's yet to be played. Like I said, I know I'm excited to see the rest of the season play out. I know everyone else watching college baseball is. My goal is just to grow the game of college baseball, share knowledge and insight and data, and just discuss it and the awareness of it. experience college baseball, different stadiums, different fan atmospheres, the hospitality, everything around it. You know, build relationships with players, coaches, fans. I love doing that, everything about it. And I'm excited for the rest of the season, how it pans out. And so, just like the 27th out, that's going to do it for me here with this episode, this version, this first edition of maybe the Fant Files. We'll call it that. But, and if you stay till the end, can't thank you enough. I don't even know how long this is. 50 under an hour, still good. Love that. Can't thank you enough, and hope that I was able to give you some sort of value and some great insight. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you maybe learned something, that you appreciated this. Whatever it is, maybe just hope you send it, share it with a friend, share it with someone that loves college baseball, needs to listen to it, wants to hear it. All I ask is that you do that and enjoy it and just watch college baseball. Let me know whatever questions you have or anything you like me to cover, talk about, discuss. Um, and I'm happy to do it. Happy to grow the game of college baseball, interact, and just engage with the game and the people of college baseball that make college baseball. So I want to share it and grow the game with you guys as much as possible. Love college baseball. Love baseball. Opening day today. Unbelievable. Baseball's fully backswing. March, I'm not even worried about March Madness. It's March Madness on the diamond. That's all I care about. And so, until next time, get out to the ball field, watch some college baseball, and see you in Omaha, hopefully, and see you at the ballpark.